James, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate your time. Congratulations. You are one of the composers for Chief of War. I hear you're working with Hans Zimmer on the project. Tell me a little bit about it.
Thank you for having me, firstly. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's a pleasure to be talking about this show. I mean, it's such a special show to me. Um, Chief of War is it's such a powerful project. And it's a show that means a lot to Hawaii. It's a show that's long overdue, and it was an incredible opportunity to do something that I think hasn't really been heard before and do it
Hmm.
in a really authentic, respectful way. Um, it's a project that's been in the making for 10 years with Jason Momoa and Paar Sibbett, but also it's been 200 years in the making, right? It's like, you know, relatively recent history. And Yeah, it's an exciting moment. And Thank you again for having me. Yeah.
Yeah, where do you start with the project like this? Because I mean, if we're this whole project is being seen from the perspective of the indigenous people,
Mhm.
and so how much time, what kind of research? Can you tell me a little bit about your process to kind of get in tune with the traditional sounds of the people?
Yeah. You know, the initial conversations were very easy. We were all on the same page that the Hawaiian collaborators were going to be the key to the score. Collaboration is something that Hans is so good at, something that he's made such an impact, working with incredible musicians over the years. And Chief of All was no exception. We had the incredible Kamaka'iva Kanakaole and Poe and the Forefathers, an incredible group of musicians and singers and instrumentalists. Um, Everyone that we worked with on Chief of War was incredibly supportive. For me and Hans as composers, there's an incredible imposter syndrome there because Chief of War is full of Hawaiians, not just on screen but also writing and directing and producing and behind the camera. Um, we wanted to make sure that we were going to write a score that was, equally respectful and authentic, and didn't just feel like two white guys, doing their best impression of Hawaii. Um, so we knew it needed to be rooted in traditional Hawaiian music, and we found the best people to work with us on that for sure.
How daunting is that to do that, to kind of go in, to be invited into the culture, and then to have to step back, do your job, and then present it back to them?
Yeah, it's very, very daunting, especially when you look at the picture and it's so you know, entrenched in this Hawaiian culture. Clearly so much effort has been taken to get things as authentic as possible before it even reaches me and Hans, right?
Hmm.
So there's an immense responsibility there. I think responsibility is actually a huge word that something that I really felt across this project. A huge weight on my shoulders, but also a massive, massive privilege. Um, the initial research I was doing, there's not a lot out there about traditional Hawaiian music. And so to have this opportunity, um, of course, we're talking 9 episodes here, and there's a huge scale here. So yes, we've got orchestra, we've got synthesizers, we've got everything that you love about a Hans Zimmer score, right? Kaiana, Jason's character, the protagonist, he goes all over the world in this show, and we have Hawaiians and we also have colonials. So there's a huge breadth that the score needs to cover. Um, but again, I can't emphasize enough how much of a privilege it was to have the opportunity when we were working on the native Hawaiian content, to I suppose the best way I can put it is that, maybe in some way our work on the score was able to be a vehicle to amplify traditional Hawaiian music, for those that might not have heard it before, and also to present it in a new light. There's so many firsts on this show. How many shows have been made in Olelo, Hawaii? Like none, basically, right? And how many people, not just young people coming up into the industry, but also the older generations that have never seen a show in their native tongue, And from a musical perspective, we get to open the main title in the Hawaiian language. That's something that hasn't been done before, and it's an incredibly exciting opportunity for sure.
Yeah, that was something that surprised me about the series was the fact that it was in the native tongue. I went, oh, okay, this is very different. I know that I always feel a lot of pride whenever they do the Mexican shows, the Latino shows in Spanish, and because it feels like it's for me, so I feel like this is the same way Native
Yeah.
Hawaiians must feel about this show. What were the conversations for that opening scene? Because I mean. The theme because I mean this is really kind of the sound of the show. Maybe even what you I know that in speaking with other composers, it's kind of the foundation to what a lot of the other sounds throughout the series are going to be based off of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, traditional Hawaiian music was really our, if ever we would feel stuck on what we needed to do, that's what we would go back to. There's incredible videos of the Merry Monarch Festival that happens on the Big Island every year. And that was a great resource for us of watching these hula performances and listening to the music that Hawaiians are making, um, and what that looks like traditionally. And that was our cornerstone for the score. And so that played a big part in the kinds of melodies. The main theme is this sort of minor third that is recurrent in a lot of traditional Hawaiian music. The rhythms of the percussion, the way we used vocals, um, and also obviously, at the same time, the instrumentation that was off limits, right? Like, yeah, a lot of people think Hawaii, they think ukulele, maybe, right? It's not part of our toolkit here. Um, and instruments that we had to take special care on as well, like the pu, the conch shell. We were very careful that that was used appropriately, and with significance, and not just as a throwaway, we're in Hawaii sound, right?
Can you elaborate a little bit on that, on some of the sounds maybe that surprised you, that had maybe more of a significant meaning than you knew before?
Yeah, absolutely. That one of the key percussion sounds is the punyu, and that's it's a knee drum that is played in traditional hula performance. So that was a really cool instrument that we got to use. We had an amazing percussion builder, Pacifica Drums in San Diego, build Punio for us that we were able to record. Um, and the Hawaiian nose flute actually was another incredible color that we were able to draw on. Um, it's funny, I had pulled some reference clips from YouTube that we played for Kavai, nose flute player. And when I played them to him, he said, "Oh, that's my dad playing." And I had no idea. And so for him to hear his dad playing and to then reference that, was just really special. There were so many serendipitous moments like that across the production of this score. Um, yeah.
One thing I was really curious about in watching some of the episodes is really your balance between taking the traditional sounds of Hawaii, but also uh, I kind of was surprised when I started hearing some couple of little like modern textures to it, which included like orchestra or just
Yeah.
other sounds, and the way you guys were able to blend it together. Can you tell me a little bit about finding that balance and also just working with Hans Zimmer to find that the right notes?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of conversation about that balance, right? There's moments where it makes sense for Hawaiian voices, for example, to be right at the forefront of the mix. And we had incredible collaborators, like I already mentioned, Kamaka Iva Kanaka Ole, in particular. There were certain scenes where she really led the charge on writing lyrics, and interpreting them in a way that was really super authentic. And that was awesome for Hans and I to then take that material and turn that into film score, right? To give it that breadth, to add the orchestra to it, to expand it out and, give it the scale that it needs, for the visuals of this incredible Apple TV show. I mean, the visuals are incredible as well. We have to live up to what those guys shot so beautifully. Um, and then on the flip side, we do have the colonials are a big part of Chief of War, and how they came to the islands and the influence that they had. Those are some of the key themes of Chief of War. It's like the islands that they called home for so many years are now under threat from the colonials, and so that influence also played a part in the score as well. And I think the score evolves over the course of those 9 episodes, as the world opens up, as Kaiana experiences the world outside of Hawaii, and as that influence comes back to the islands. I think in the same way, the orchestra, more Western traditional percussion, orchestral percussion comes into the score. And by the time we're in episode 9, it's really everything goes. You have these kind of humongous. I mean, no spoilers, but episode 9 is such a humongous episode, and so we really had everything at our disposal then, right? Full orchestra. Um, Everything Hans is so incredible at, these powerful synthesizers and percussion and driving orchestral moments that are really underpinned by traditional Hawaiian instrumentalists.
Yeah, you guys did a hell of a job.
Appreciate it. Thank you for saying
Um,
that.
yeah, so a final question in working in that, doing that research and getting to know these instruments and these sounds, what are maybe a couple of standout things that are going to stick with you that you'll probably keep in. I mean, I'm sure you keep it all in your toolbox, but what are some of the things that maybe stand out to you the most that you'll be like, oh, I'll be using this on a upcoming project, or just something like that that's unique.
Yeah, wow, that's a interesting question. I mean, oh, there was so many things. I mean, one of the things that I didn't actually anticipate being so useful was the oi oi. It's a bull roarer, like a hollowed out gourd that is spun around the head, and it creates this whistling sound. And we use that across the score, and that was just such an interesting texture, and something I would love to use again. I think a lot of the experience on this show was about my own journey as a composer, you know, being outside of my comfort zone and working with people that are experts in a different field, and using my expertise to help bridge that gap and bring two worlds together. And as I already said, to amplify, a musical world that maybe hasn't been seen, or at least not in this context. And that experience was really, really special for me. The Hawaii was such an incredible place to work, and the people were so welcoming and generous in what they shared with Hans and I. I would love to do this again, in a different context. And also with Hawaii again. I'd love to go back to Hawaii. Fingers crossed for a season 2 and 3.
I really all want to go to Hawaii.
Exactly.
Yeah, but how exciting though. I'm very happy for you. I hope that in your journey as a composer, you get to explore more cultures and do things like this to not only expand your knowledge in sound, but also in people and in geography and in all the above. Seems like a very, very unique and great way to get to know people. So
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
James, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me to talk Chief of War. It means a lot to me because your experiences. I get to get a little taste of it through your kind words.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Likewise.